Welcome to another broadcast of Wealth Summit 2026. Now, this is our second broadcast, and I want to share with you just a little bit about what this platform is about. Wealth Summit 2026, we are going to invest time, talent, and resources to ensure that our global audience get an understanding in terms of what are some of the practical steps that you can take to start and scale your 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure brand. On this platform, you will also learn about practical tips to position you to build wealth, what it takes to invest in income producing assets, what are some of the pitfalls. We will cover all of that and so much more. You will also be learning about technology and the significant role that technology plays in helping to give your business the competitive advantage. Along with that, we will have experts that will talk with you about health-related issues and how adopting healthy best practices will not only enhance the quality of your life, but how that too can play a significant role in prolonging your life expectancy. To get today's program started, I want to talk a little bit about relationship economics. Why is this so important? In today's world, we are seeing that many rising stars in business across the world, you are starting your business and it leaves so much more to be accomplished. But what I'm about to share with you, I want to show you will change your reality and set the stage to ensure that you attain better results. And you can attain better results with your business, with relationship economics. Why? Because relationship economics stands on 4 important pillars. And when you commit the time, talent, and resources to understand these pillars, and you put yourself in that position of strength to apply the body of knowledge that I will share with you, it becomes a game changer. Pillar 1, you will understand that relationship economics is a tool. And when you understand how to master this tool, it enables you to master your personal brand. Now, how important is your personal brand in starting and scaling your business? Well, I want to show it's important, and we will also look at that. But relationship economics will also enable you to understand how to master the value creation ladder. In business, if you don't understand what is the value creation ladder and how to apply the value creation ladder to move your vision ahead, there lies a challenge. My presentation today will also cover things like relationship economics and how it relates to helping you to build what we call transformative mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, and supportive communities. Why is all this important? Now, stay with me, and I will give you all of the reasons why it is important. Now, the last concept that we will look at today is relationship economics as it relates to helping you to optimize your client conversion ladder. So let's begin to do a deep dive into why relationship economics is the game changer. Now, relationship economics enables you to master your personal brand. Now, any attempt to build and master your personal brand, it's important to recognize that you cannot build your personal brand in isolation to people's needs, wants, and expectations. You're building that brand to be relevant to people. In order to achieve this, there's a concept that we call the ICSTL. Now, at the beginning of the ICSTL, we focus on a concept that we call brand relevance. Now, why is brand relevance important? Now, brand relevance has two important concepts that you need to focus on. In building your brand must be relevant to the needs, wants, and expectations of the ideal client. Your brand must be relevant to the potential consumers. But what are those factors that you are looking at to predetermine whether or not your brand is relevant? So relationship economics really helps you to understand that, because remember, in relationship economics, the key focus is not on transaction. It's more relational, because very often what we see is as rising stars in business, you just want to make that financial transaction, the business transaction. And that process begins and ends with you giving a product or a service and you receiving money. And that is the beginning and the end. With relationship economics, it's different. Relationship economics enables you to connect with the ideal client, connect with your team, connect with people at a deeper level. And it is the ability to connect with people, with the ideal client, with your team at that deeper level, creates a difference. But to connect with people at a different level, at a deeper level, you need to apply the ICSTL. All right? And here is where the first step that you have to focus on is to identify who you want to target, who you want to serve. Now, the reason you want to identify who you're going to serve with your value offer, with your personal brand, once you have identified who you want to serve, the next step is to commit the time to identify what are their needs, their wants, and their expectations. Now, one of the mistakes that we see many rising stars in business do, you start a business and it is an emotional decision. It is an emotional decision because you don't have a clear mental picture as to who you're targeting, and you don't have a clear mental picture of what are those needs and wants and expectations of the ideal client. But here is where you're reaching to that stage to provide products and services. So you're providing products and services without knowing if it is relevant to the needs, wants, and expectations of the ideal client. So very often when you recognize that you are positioning your brand in the market and you're not necessarily attracting desired response, the possibility exists that is happening because you are positioning, you're providing products and services without doing the first two things, which is identifying who you want to serve and committing that time to identify what are their needs, what are their wants, and what are their expectations. It is only by identifying this, it is only after identifying this, you want to come to that stage now to then focus on innovating products and services to possibly reach and exceed expectations with the highest degree of consistency. But I want to say this because in any attempt to build your personal brand, and as you look at brand relevance stands on two spectrums. On one spectrum, the ideal client, you must be relevant to the ideal client. And the way for you to know that is to identify who you want to target, to identify what are their specific needs, and then you innovate. But the second aspect of this is that the ideal client must be relevant to you. And what exactly does that mean? In starting a business, it is important for you to commit that time to ensure that the products and services that you're innovating, the products and the services that you are intend to provide, it is not only relevant, but to ensure that the people that you're targeting is also relevant to you. Now, think about this. Let us suppose that you are a real estate developer and you go into a middle class environment, and that may have some degree of risk associated within the environment, but then you're producing the absolute high end products. What do you think is likely to happen? All right, what do you think is likely to happen? There is a mismatch there. You are billing a product, but because you have not evaluate all of the facts that needs to be evaluated, you build that product, but that product becomes irrelevant to the ideal client, because the affluent in society, when they are investing in comfort, they want safety, they want security. And if you're building in an environment where there is less of that, it's going to undermine relevance. So these are things that you need to focus on at a deeper level. And it is the ability to do this is what's going to set you up to be more successful in your business decision making and in how you execute yourself as a rising star and star in business. Relevance must be on both sides, but there's more for us to look at. Because to create brand relevance, you want to ensure that the market is viable. Can you imagine that you're innovating products and you're innovating services, and you cannot predetermine how viable the market is because you didn't take the time to identify the size of the market. You didn't take the time to understand the specific needs of the market. You didn't take the time to analyze emergency in the market, because the emergency is what's going to influence the level of demands that people will have for your products and services. So these are important concepts that you need to think about. So let's come right back to relationship economics and your personal brand. The first tenet of relationship marketing enables you to build and master your personal brand. So in building your personal brand, you want to ask yourself, do you have the ability to deliver value above and beyond the expectations of the ideal client? Do you have the ability to assess market viability? Do you have the ability to assess market accessibility? Do you have the ability to assess market urgency? Do you have the ability to assess if the market has the ability to pay? And do you have the ability to assess what practical steps you can take to ensure that you get the ideal client to pay? Now, these are important information that you need when you're attempting to create brand relevance. Let me give another example. Can you imagine that you start a business? You're excited about starting a business, and this is what many rising stars do. You make an emotional decision when you should be making a business decision that is highly informed based on data. Can you imagine starting a business? You find consumers, but then when you find a consumer, you recognize that they don't have the ability to pay. So if you find consumers for your products and services, but then they don't have the ability to pay, is there any balance with the equilibrium? Is there any balance? Remember, in building your personal brand, relevance must be balanced. You must be relevant to the ideal client, and the ideal client must be relevant to you. So, in our community, I want to show you that we go deep into these concepts to ensure that we help you to get the winning formula so you can make better, smarter, wiser decisions as you start and scale your business. And relationship economics, it goes deep into this. And I want to emphasize this. The reason you're investing time to understand the target market, the reason you're investing time to understand what are the specific needs, wants, and expectations of the target market is because your intention is not to be transactional. Your intention is to be relational. And that's to form a deep connection with the people. And the only way you can do this in building relationships is by ensuring that you take the time to understand people and their needs. And to ensure that you rise into the occasion to not only reach the expectations of the consumer, but possibly exceed that expectation. It is the ability to do this that puts you in that position to affect desired results, to influence desired results. Now, coming back to the topic, the first pillar of relationship economics, while it focuses on giving you the tools to master your personal brand, to master your personal brand, there are a number of practical steps that you need to focus on. In our community, you will learn how to apply the ICSDL to building that personal brand, but you will also learn how to apply the CCL. All right, because in building and mastering your personal brand, you're not only building that brand to position you to build healthy, productive relationship with the ideal client only. All right. It goes beyond this, but I'll talk about this a little bit more before I get to the end of this program. I will talk a little bit more about the ICSDL when I'm talking about the client conversion ladder, how to master this process. But in building your personal brand, these are concepts that you need to take into consideration, because that is what's going to enable you to be relevant to people, your ideal client, and to ensure that you have the right information that is telling you they are relevant to you. Why? Because they're accessible. Why? The market is viable. Why? They have the ability to pay. And you know exactly the practical steps that you can take to ensure that they are paying and happy consumers. In building your personal brand, we also talk about the pathway of influence, because you're building your brand in order for it to have influence. So it's important for you to understand what are those pathways that enables your brand or position your brand to have the influence to command attention, pique interest, arouse desire, move the ideal client into action, because you're now able to make impact, convert, and bring you to that point where you are nurturing confidence, trust, and credibility in your value offer. So as we go deeper into this body of knowledge, we will talk to you about why is it important to incorporate vision into your personal brand. You see, you need to incorporate vision. Vision says that you have the ability to think ahead. You're seeing beyond problems, and you have the ability to take informed action to achieve a desired end results. So in building your personal brand, are you standing out as that person who is a visionary? So we go deep into this so as to ensure that you're adopting these healthy characteristics to your personality as you build and master your personal brand. Now, vision is not a subject that stands alone. We talk about resources. And as we talk about resources, this is important because, again, we see that very often we have people who might profess to be visionaries. But a visionary without the resources, you may be a passive visionary because you need resources to fully enact that vision. But what do I mean by resources? And I'm talking here about the human resources. Do you have the human resources to move the vision forward? Do you have the technical resources to move the vision forward? Do you have the capital resources to move the vision forward? Now, in relationship economics, because your focus again is on relationships, relationship economics gives you a formula to build out these ecosystems. So you have the resources, the human, the technical, and the capital resources to move the vision forward because of relationship marketing, relationship economics. So I'm just giving you a high level and yet a brief overview of what relationship economics can and will do for you. But we go deeper than just vision and resources. We talk about processes. And what is processes? Processes is you knowing the right tools and how to deploy the right tools the right way to achieve the high rewards, the measurable results, the predictable outcome with the highest degree of accuracy. Now, can you imagine that you are committing this time to build your personal brand out in this way? And because you're committing that time to build your personal brand out in this way, because relationship economics, it begins with you and your personal branding. So because you're committing that time to build yourself up in this way, guess what? It is easier for you to build relationship because you're not going to build relationship from a transactional standpoint. You're going to build relationship because you know that you have value to give. And you're leveraging that as your springboard to form healthy, productive relationships. All right, healthy, productive relationship. That can be a major game changer. So in 2026 and beyond, we will examine this body of knowledge because to build a business, to build a brand, if you build it leveraging relationship economics, you're going to set yourself up to win. Now, I want to jump forward to relationship economics from the standpoint of it being a tool to build and master transformative mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, and supportive community. Now, can you imagine that you're starting a business, but there are some elements of business that you're not quite familiar with. Like, for example, you don't understand much about the financial market. So you don't know much about how to access capital, how to leverage capital, and how to mitigate financial instruments. What relationship economic does, it gives you a blueprint to rise above those challenges. And I'm going to give you some real examples as I go further into today's presentation. If you get the right mentor, when you get the right mentors, the right coach, the right sponsors, when you become part of the right supportive community, they are leaders in that community that can mentor you. They are leaders in that community that can coach you. They are experienced in that community that can sponsor you and provide that supportive environment for you to grow. In fact, very often when you join trade association and chambers of commerce, you are joining with the expectations of getting the much needed help to move your vision forward. But very often that expectation is significantly on the mind. So when we talk of relationship economics, we're talking about a system that is different. So can you imagine that you're part of a community that understands how to apply relationship economics? So in that community, you are now starting your business, and you have a mentor that is not only talking to you about one particular financial instrument, but you have leaders in the community that can talk to you about different financial instruments, because there are major differences between each of the financial instruments. For example, debt operates different from equity. Equity operates different from credit, and credit operates different from creative capital. And let me give some examples. You see, when you take debt financing, that debt financing, particularly so if you invest in real estate, it is subject to PITI, principal and interest, tax, and insurance. And you have monthly debt obligation. And if you are unable to reach your financial obligation, your monthly financial obligation, let us say for a period of 3 to 4 months, you're in major trouble there. So as a rising star in business who is not able to assess market realities and assess risk in doing business, perhaps that may not be the best financial instrument to you, but you don't know it because you don't have the right mentor. You don't have the right coach. You don't have the right sponsors. You don't have the right supportive community that is helping you to make these critical and highly informed decisions. Relationship economics, because of the relationship ecosystem where information is flowing, it is helping you to make better, smarter, wiser decisions in a shorter period of time. It is accelerating the pace in which you learn, the pace in which you grow, the pace in which you leverage information, and the pace in which you position yourself to build wealth. Perhaps the financial instruments for you might be equity financing. Why? Because an equity investor, when they're coming in, they're not necessarily looking for quick financial turnover. It's not that they're going to reject it if it happens, but they're coming in with a mindset to work with you, to partner with you, to network with you, to build a healthy, productive relationship with you. So they are the right private equity investor. When they come in, they're not only coming with capital, they're coming with market intelligence. So they're able to say to you, okay, are you assessing the market size? Are you looking at the market viability? Are you looking at market accessibility? Well, if not, this is what we need to do, and this is what I can do as a private equity investor to move your business and your brand and your vision to that next level. And this is what relationship economics can do for you. This is what having the right mentors, the right coach, the right sponsors, the right supportive community can do for you. All right. So in our community, this is exactly what we want to provide for you. The right mentor and coach and sponsor that can sit with you and can say to you that, hey, don't take debt, take equity. And because we are relationship focused, let us help connect you with some equity partner. Or they might be able to say to you, okay, why not let's look at this financial portfolio totally different. There are financial instruments that we call DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio. So there's a DSCR loan, and that operates different from debt financial instruments. So what I'm going to share with you here, if you're living in the United States of America, you can leverage this. If you're living in the Caribbean, it's another story, and I'm going to talk about both aspects of it. Now, as a rising star in business, particularly if you're looking to invest in real estate, because investing in real estate is a capital intensive investment, many ambitious rising stars who might think about investing in real estate or wanting to become an investor in real estate, the barrier to entry is high. Because when you go to the traditional financial institutions, they ask for historical record. And if you don't have historical records, that's going to pose a challenge. They're going to ask for equity. And if you don't have the equity, that will pose a challenge. All right. They're going to ask for collateral. And if you don't have collateral, that's going to pose a challenge. With the DSCR loan, it's different. Because with the DSCR loan, they are basically looking at the portfolio. And all they are looking for is that the portfolio, the return on investment must be about 1.2% higher than the PITI. This might be complex language, but let me try to simplify it. When you take a debt to invest in real estate, that debt is subject to PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance. The principal is a sum that you are borrowing. The interest is a sum that you are paying for the sum that you are borrowing. Tax is where you may have to pay to government agencies, and the insurance is what you have to pay that in the event that something goes wrong with the estate, like fire or flooding, you have insurance coverage to protect you. So with a DSCR loan, all they're looking for is that the cash flow of that estate must be 1.2% or higher above the PITI. That's easy. Now you might want to say, okay, yes, the DSCR loan may ask for some degree of equity. Well, in the developed world, there are many approaches that you can use to access startup capital, to access uh, your investment sum for that portfolio. You can go to hard money lending. You can go to credit card leverage. You can leverage creative financing. So, in other words, you are able to move faster and capitalize on these opportunity with greater ease because you have access and you have supportive systems. And perhaps because you also have a mentor, a coach, a sponsor, you have a supportive community that is pointing you in the right direction. And even in America, you need it because I'm doing business in America. And there's a lot of things about the financial sector that a lot of Americans don't know. So, what relationship economic does, because you have the mentor, the coach, the sponsor, the supportive community who wants you to win, that information is easily filtering down to you. See, just like I'm here filtering information out to you. So if you're in the US, you can leverage this type of information to position yourself to build wealth. In fact, if you don't know how, you can go to this broadcast right now on YouTube and you can just scroll to description and you can see a number of financial institutions that we are partnering with that is going to give you the support that you need. You can reach out to us for mentorship. You can reach out to us for coaching. You can reach out to us for sponsorship. You can reach out to us to be part of a supportive community that wants you to win. So I looked at it from the perspective of the developed world. You have access. In developing economies, we need to have a shift. And last week I spoke about the fact that in Guyana is a beautiful country and one of the fastest growing countries in the world. But very often when you go to the ground and you're interfacing with rising stars in business, the one thing they keep talking about is access to capital. Yes, I'm fully aware that a private sector development bank is going to be on board before the end of the first quarter. And I want to say hip hip hooray. I want to say kudos to the leaders for think tanking and embracing this creative approach to supporting private sector development. But the big question I still want to ask is it enough? I can't say because I don't know all of the nuts and bolts in terms of what are going to be the pre-qualification criteria and what is going to be the sum allocated to rising stars in business. But what I want to say, because I'm looking at things from a US standpoint and I'm looking at things from an economic development standpoint and a business development standpoint, I want to say this, that it always makes sense to ensure that we can widen the scope of financial instruments and to increase the access points of financial instruments. Because think about this. If rising stars in business have these multiple access points to capital and the easy access to capital, along with the mentor, the coach, the sponsor, the supportive community that is helping them to leverage capital, not into liability, but into assets, income producing assets in the right way. Think about this. Is this going to further undermine social and economic development, or is this going to fast track social and economic development? It will significantly optimize social and economic development. It will set the stage to create more jobs. It will set the stage to create more wealth circulation. It will create the stage for a lot of more positive things to happen. So we are an advocate for what we call a mixed financial market, where we have access to debt, we have access to credit, we have access to DSCR loans, we have access to creative financing. I do believe that Guyana will be not just the fastest growing country in the world, but perhaps the best country to live in. All right. So again, I want to come back to how relationship economics work. Because of your mindset and your way of thinking, it's not transactional, it's relational. So everyone that comes into our community, we're not looking for the dollar figure, how much we can get them to pay in the shortest possible time. No, I'm looking at how I can add value to you, how I can exceed your expectations, and how I can do this consistently. And guess what? Once you know that you're getting value, you're going to be willing to pay perhaps above your financial obligation. And that is what group relationship economics can do for you. We have a beautiful system that is built out to really help you to understand this. We have a lot to unpack, but in the interest of the fact that we have a few other speakers here that I know want to come into the conversation, I will decrease shortly, and I will open up the floor for some of the other speakers to share. Today we also have Roland in studio, and Roland, he is very active in health and wellness. So as you think about building wealth, you also should be thinking about your health, your wellness. And I want to say this, in my recent experience, I have been interfacing with some millionaires and billionaires who haven't been very good to their health. Many of them suffered a stroke and still recovering. Many of them are living with high potential, high blood pressure. So they have worked hard to build wealth, but because of not working hard to take care of your health, they're not able to enjoy the massive wealth that has been accumulated. So Wealth Summit 2026, we are looking at all of this because, yes, we want you to build wealth. But what we want most importantly is that you must be able to live a long life and enjoy the wealth that you have built. Whether you're going to enjoy life with your family or you're going to enjoy life by doing good in the world, like I'm setting out here to do, because my commitment, while it's business, my intention is to do good in the world. It's to share the information that I really hoped and wished many years ago that the adults older than me would have said, hey, son, come, let me point you in the right direction. Let me accelerate your pathway to business success. Let me accelerate your pathway to build wealth. So what I didn't have, I want to give because I understand the importance of giving. And that's what relationship economics is all about. All right. It's about a community of people that has knowledge and experience, and they just want to give you the right information to move you forward. So with that being said, I'll talk perhaps a little bit later on about practical steps to build wealth. So I've given you some ideas in terms of how to build wealth when I talk about different financial instruments. And last week I talked about the fact, is there a way to acquire real estate with no money out of pocket? And, to depend on where you're viewing this program from, it might sound to many as wishful thinking, but I want to say to you, in the developed world, it's a common way of doing business. If you understand the DSCR loan that I've just spoken about, and if you understand what is creative financing, if you understand what is subject to, if you understand these content, you will know what I'm talking about as time progresses. Our intention is to go deeper into this. So we're going to either mentor you from afar, or when you come into our community, we're going to mentor you from near. Why? Because we want you to win in business. We want you to win in life, in wealth. We want you to win in health. We want you to win in community. All right, folks, I trust you would have enjoyed the first few minutes of Wealth Summit 2026. I now want to, well, I'm going to bring on Roland shortly, but I also want to acknowledge Minister Joel Warner. He is a specialist in the tech industry. And of course, he will be talking to us shortly about the tech industry and how to apply tech to business to optimize your business success. So I'm now going to call on Brother Roland to come join me in today's conversation. Hi, Roland. How are you, my friend?
Good, but I something I want to ask you first, even before we go into the health thing,
Go ahead.
because a couple of things piqued my interest very much just now. You talk about don't take debt, better if you take equity financing, and just give a little bit more on DSCR loans. I mean, those are not available here in Guyana, where we operating from.
Mhm.
Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. And remember, I did. Okay. All right. Let me
Hmm.
answer the question. I didn't say don't take debt.
Right.
I'm saying that depending on where
Hmm.
you are in the stage of doing business,
Hmm.
debt may not be the most suitable financial instruments for you to use. Because
Right.
think about this, you are now starting a business. You're
Hmm.
not certain about the business potential to cash flow, but then
Hmm.
you're taking a debt that holds you. Um, you have obligation, a monthly debt obligation to start paying back that debt at the end of the month, but you're not
Hmm.
certain if that business is cash flow. If you're a novice in business and you simply just go and start that business, not thinking about, hey, I have monthly debt obligation, or hey, I'm certain that my business turnover is going to be in 15 days and not 60 days, you're going to run into some problem with that debt instrument. All right.
Right.
So the problem for me is not in taking debt. The problem is you must understand how each financial instrument works. All right. Very often you take debt and it becomes a liability. It becomes a liability because the you didn't apply the ICS-TL. You didn't stress test the market to ensure that you know who you're targeting with products and services. You didn't put yourself in a position of strength to, clearly ensure that you build a healthy, productive relationship. You didn't build a relationship to ensure that you have guarantee buyers. Because if you have guarantee buyers, man, I'll take debt all day because
Hmm.
I know once I take that debt, I'm going to be getting the financial turnover to reach the debt obligation.
Hmm.
You see, the other thing with debt that I must say, because I wanted to be clear, you need to understand the financial instruments, regardless of how high the interest rate may be. If you understand how to leverage even debt, it makes sense. But you must clearly map out how you're going to cash flow that debt above the PITI. And that's what the average person is not doing, that type of analysis to prevent themselves from creating a liability. And there's where I have the challenge. All right.
Okay. So,
But
question.
go ahead.
Yeah, question. So that in our context here in Guyana, that is the reason why a lot of people borrow loans against their collaterals, like for example, like their homes, and
Hmm.
they end up going belly up because, as you rightly said just now,
Hmm.
the loans weren't properly structured in a way whereby they understand how they're going to service this debt, and the business or whatever they wanted to get into didn't materialize the way that they probably thought it would. So
No,
that probably
I
explains.
don't want. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to necessarily say that the loan wasn't structured properly.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that the borrower
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a clear financial plan to optimize
Right.
the debt that they are taking.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right, because when you have understand financial instrument, when you understand debt leverage or capital
Mm-hmm.
leverage,
Mm-hmm.
you understand that when you are taking debt, there are risks associated with it.
Yeah.
And a knowledgeable player will play the game to minimize the risk and to optimize the gain. And to minimize risk and optimize the results that you want, you need to apply the ICSDL. You need to know who you're targeting with products and services. You need to
Mm-hmm.
know the market viability. You need to know the market accessibility. You need to know what is urgent, because if you're invested in a product or service that there's no immediate demand, there's no urgency for that demand, it's going to affect how you cash flow that money that you're borrowing. And there
Okay.
lies a problem. So the problem is
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily with the instrument, is with
Mm-hmm.
how you are trained to leverage it. And
Oh,
here is where you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a sponsor, you need a supportive community that's going to sit with you and say, hey, if you don't have the information, perhaps that is not for you. You need
okay.
equity.
Mhm. So
Perhaps
the
you
other
need
thing,
these. Go
mhm.
ahead.
So the other thing is that we don't have equity financing here, right? In Guyana.
No, we don't. But what we have that comes very
Mm-hmm.
close to that is what we call joint venture partnership. We have collaborative effort.
Mm-hmm.
You see, private equity is not far away from a joint venture partnership.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you can perhaps find a joint venture partner once you understand your products and services, once you understand your market, and you might be able to go to a JV and you say, hey, why not bank with me? Because perhaps if you bank with the traditional bank, you're getting 0.1%. But when you bank with me, I'm giving you 3.5%.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But again, to motivate JV, joint venture partners, you need to again understand your market,
Mm-hmm.
because an educated JV, they're not just going to listen to an emotion, like, hey, this got potential to be great. This has the potential to cash flow. They want to get the data. And again, this is what we are attempting to do as we form this community, is to ensure that we can help people to get the right information to make the best decision possible and to move their vision forward. Sometimes
Right.
people are
Mm-hmm.
not getting success, not because people don't want to help, but it's because people may not be prepared for the help. And people, when they talk with you, they see risk. You're not seeing it because you're making an emotional decision. But because
Right.
of the depth of experience and knowledge that they may have, they're seeing the risk. What we want to do is that when we see the risk, we're not necessarily going to leave you by yourself. Once you're part of our community, we're going to sit
Mm-hmm.
you down and we're going to tell you the risk. And we're going to sit you
Right.
down and we're going to point you in the right direction. And we're going to sit you down and we're going to ensure that you get the kind of support that you need to move that vision forward.
Mm-hmm. But that
All right.
that in it's that instead of what you're talking about, where to sit down and to basically walk the person through the obstacle course, what they're not seeing
Mm-hmm.
is something that has never been done here, because that language that you're talking about here is that's foreign language, because I've never heard about anything like that. Even in Guyana, somebody, I mean, they don't concern whether or not if you operate from an emotional standpoint, or whether you see the hidden potholes or whatever. They're just interested in lending
Mm-hmm.
you money because they probably have the eye on your assets, that they probably know that you're going to default, and they can leverage on it,
Yeah.
you know. So
Okay.
I
Well,
refer to it as predatory lending.
okay. Now, let me answer the question. You're right. I haven't heard of any back in the Caribbean, and perhaps that's why I'm a humanitarian.
Mm-hmm.
On the point of predatory lending, I want to say yes and no. But again, when you understand the financial market, Roland,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter how predatory the financial players might be, because some things that you don't know and the average borrower don't know is that they are in a position of strength to influence the annual percentage rate on capital. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand financial instrument at a deeper level, because interest is calculated on the amortization rate and those things that we need to look at. So I don't want to get into all of that yet, because I'm not going to give
Mm-hmm.
you all the sauce. No, but I want to say this: regardless of how high the interest rate is, the borrower has a high degree of influence over paying that. They have control over it. They just don't know it.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. Um, you cannot be charged interest on, on a reducing principal or a principal that doesn't exist. As time progresses, we'll talk about that. And that is applicable to debt, it is applicable to credit. Because with credit, there's what we call a billing cycle. And as a borrower, if you're leveraging credit, you can leverage credit for the rest of your life and never pay APR on it, because you understand the billing cycle. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So there's a window that is open with credit that once you use and repay before the end of the billing cycle, you have a control over that. So I wouldn't go that far to say predatory lending. Yes, it might
Mm-hmm.
be so, but guess what? If you're an educated consumer, you know how to play the game with predatory lenders. You know to be perhaps, I wouldn't say
Mm-hmm.
they're best friends, because,
Mm-hmm.
but you understand how to play the game, and the key is intelligence,
Right.
the information. Now, in this
Okay.
community, we will help our community members to learn these things over time about financial instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I trust I answer you there, Roland.
Yeah. There's still some cloudy clouds ahead, but I guess as we
I understand.
yeah, I guess it's become more where you hear more of this particular language because this is a different language that we are hearing here, and I'm glad that we having the opportunity to share into this thing because to me it's like this is like foreign language. I said it before, and I will keep saying it again. That this is
Hmm.
something that needs to be taught in school. I did economics and commerce in school, but I don't think I ever came across anything these things because I'm only hearing about these things like yesterday. I mean, this is something we should have known starting in school, and I wish the school curriculum could get some of these things on their agenda because it's going to help people to navigate some treacherous waters. So
Yeah,
that's my concern.
without a doubt, financial intelligence at a deeper level can literally transform people's life. And
Yeah.
on our platform, we will definitely be talking about pathways to build wealth. Um, because we are fully aware that your most people's single source of income cannot work. In the US, when we do the interaction with people, when we do the research, we are seeing that, many Americans, they're not even able to live in a house. In the Caribbean, people live in house. You know, people don't know much about living in a room. But can you imagine America, where everybody want to go? People have to reduce themselves to take a room for their, they have we call it co-living
Mhm.
spaces, because of the high cost of living, and because of the fact that that single source of income is not enough. So we have communities from the U.S. standpoint that we are working with, and we are now building communities in the Caribbean to ensure that we can filter certain type of information to people to really help them to change their mindset. That mindset of thinking me, myself, and I, it's outdated. You have to start thinking of collective efforts, and that's why we are introducing relationship economics. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you have a relationship economy, ecosystem, this ecosystem is what's going to give you the kind of information to make better, smarter, wiser life and business decisions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So we
All right, Roland.
we are not alone in this boat then. So there's a lot of people around the world, I guess, in similar situations. We're
Well, people around the world might even be in worse situation. I mean,
mm-hmm.
in the U.S., I can tell you that there are many persons in worse situation than the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I would keep saying if the right enabling systems are in place in Caribbean countries, um, we would not only be the fastest growing country, but perhaps the best countries to live in because we have all of the systems that are in place to complement people's development and to also fast track the national development in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, but
All right.
we'll go deeper into
Mm-hmm.
those things as we progress, Roland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any other questions before I turn the mic over to you? Because I want you to talk today about some health related issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I
Any
can
other
go ahead and
question? Yeah, you're not
uh,
on camera though. I'm not seeing you. Where are you?
are you getting me now? I'm not even seeing myself on camera. So
If you're on the computer, perhaps you just need to slide a button
I'm
away.
on I'm on
There's
the
a little thing that can
on
cover
my
the
phone.
camera. I trust that.
Yeah, I'm using my phone right now because my son is using his computer, which
Okay,
is what I am
perhaps
using also.
you need to tap the camera on the phone.
Oh, I got it
Got
open. It's
you.
open. Mm-hmm.
Got you. You see what mentorship and coaching is all about?
Man, it's a shocker all the time, it's a shocker all the time. Yeah. All right. So,
Okay, my friend.
yeah.
On to you.
Um, this is the topic that it's something that is very personal to me, and something that we really started out with in terms of health and wellness. That's what we are. That's what we do. Um, it's about balancing your terrain. It's all about the terrain. I always remember the famous German scientist Otto Warburg said that it's not the disease; it's all about the terrain. All right, and once you reverse the terrain or change the terrain, the condition of the terrain, disease will be reversed. And simple analogies we can use is like, for example, like in our in our current environment, even your own the surroundings is your home and stuff like that. If you want to get, if you have a issue with mosquitoes or rodents or rats or insects or whatever, look at what is contributing or what we refer to as the causative factors with respect to why these things are around. And for example, like mosquitoes, if you have open containers that traps water and stuff like that, mosquitoes will find it. All right. So we get rid of those things. We change the environment. We get rid of the mosquitoes. If you have garbage receptacles that are not being cleaned or emptied every so often, it will give rise to insects, rodents, cockroaches, and stuff like that. So clean the barrel, you clean the receptacles, and the rats have nothing to feed on. So simple analogies that we can make with respect to our bodies, and I'm talking here about your pH, healthy pH. I'm talking here about um, accessing the kind of foods that will have less of an impact in terms of making our pH acidic, which can give rise to degenerative conditions. Example, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, heart disease, uh, things that we, things that seem to be a part and parcel of our modern day society. Let me give an example. Like in the early 19th century, the average person used about 10 pounds of sugar per year. The average person in our 21st, 22nd century is using about 150 plus pounds of sugar per year, one person. So we have seen the comparisons whereby the intake of these, what we call acidic foods, is contributing to our demise in terms of our reduction in the quality of life that we can pursue. That we were made to live, not in pain, not in inflammation, not in sickness, but to be vibrant, to be healthy, to be living the life that our Creator made us to live, make us to live. So um, some of the simple things that we try to focus on is, for example, like even the water that we consume. Not all water is created equal. Okay, I'll give you an example for it. Battery water. Battery water has a pH of 7.0, which is neutral. Now, there's an old saying: batteries don't die, people kill them. All right, and I found that rather strange. I saw that, looked upon it, and I did a step back, and I said, "This is rather true because if you take ordinary water from your tap and put it into your car battery, you will kill it. Simple. If you put neutral water or distilled water, which is 7.0 as neutral water, you have a battery that is going to last. Okay? So, why is it that we are putting substances in our bodies that is causing a multitude of problems, ill health, and a whole host of problems, arthritis, sore joints, um, even people, even things that we would consider to be old age or old people's sickness, young people are coming on with it. All right. Um, so our quest here in this community is to give as much knowledge as possible to people, either on a one-to-one basis in respect to their health, um, the kind of healthy foods, the healthy choices that you can make, because things that you can control, the things that you can, things that that you put on to wear, the things that you put on your foot, the things that you put in your stomach, the things that you drink or eat, or even wear on your creams that you put in your skin. You have that choice as an individual to choose what is beneficial to you. I'm not saying everybody's going to comply with it, but if you know that some things are causing you some sort of issue or problems, or is made likely to cause problems as you get older, don't wait until crash in a burn situation, then looking for solutions. Start now. Start like yesterday. So simple things: drinking water. As I said earlier, not all waters are created equally. Um, we have here at our location here in Georgetown, Guyana, we have what we call alkaline water, which you can get from 7.0 to 9.5 to 10.0. All right. So it depends on your level of intake in terms of what you want to use. You can start here at the lowest at 8.5 and you come up gradually. All right. And why I'm saying this is that, look at this, for example, the pH of your blood, which travels the entire um, length and breadth of your body from head to toe, has a pH of 7.635. And we have in our in our bodies as a protection what God has created for us is what we refer to as sodium bicarbonate, or we call your buffer zones. One of those being calcium, which are your bones, which is the main repository for calcium. So when the body detects acidity or there's too much acid foods that we're taking in, the body compensates by keeping the pH of the blood healthy. But this process cannot continue for a long period of time because the replenishing factors are either missing or non-existent. So you keep putting unhealthy foods in your system or foods that creates high inflammation or high acidity are going to eventually erode the health and wellness of your body, your tissues and organs, or whichever has the greatest susceptibility to what you're taking in. Those are the ones who are most likely to start showing signs early, for example, for what you're doing, what you're taking in. So what we're talking about here about is the acid alkaline balance of your body. So the foods that we consume on a normal day, that is breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then we have those having between lunch, breakfast and lunch, we have what we call cereal snackers. People they may have had their breakfast an hour ago and then the next hour they're eating something again. So they have like a 3 or 4 snacks before lunch, and then they have 2 or 3 snacks before dinner, and then like 10 minutes they don't watching television or they're gone out and have take a drink, more snacking. So over 70 to 80 something, 90% of your foods that you take in is considered highly acidic. So what we're doing here is to offer you information as how to reverse that.
Yeah.
How to reverse that. So
Yeah. Roland, I just want to pause you a little bit. You know,
mhm.
you're given a lot of solid information, and I want to acknowledge our audience. Uh, we have over 1,160 plus persons that is here at the moment, and we did far better than last week. I want to thank um, those persons who are viewing us. And today we are broadcasting across multiple social media platform, and we are most likely reaching over 50 countries. Right now, I can see that we have approximately 1,250 persons who are here, and I want to thank them all for being here today. Roland, I want to just ask a few questions because you have made some important statements. Sometimes we drink water and not taking into consideration the differences between, tap water and alkaline water. And when we look at the body index, what we're seeing is that about 60% of the adult body is water. We're also seeing so much more. The brain and the heart composed about 73% of water. The lungs are about 83% of water. And as we look at the skin, contains, let's say, about 64% of water. Muscle and kidneys is about 79% of water. And even the bones, they say, contain about 31% of water. So the thing that you spoke about earlier, and if we take tap water and put it into the battery, it actually kills the battery. And can we imagine when we consume that water as humans, how much it is down regulating human performance? And we are not possibly tracing that because we are not exposed. Most people are not exposed to that type of information, right? What do you say?
Yeah, that is very factual what you're talking, because the human body is 70 to 80%. When you're born, there's about 80% liquid. Okay,
Hmm.
and as you get older, you start to reduce in terms of liquid as against solidity. So like when
Hmm.
you cross over 50 to 60, you have what we call a 50-50 ratio.
So what you're
And
recommending in this context, Roland, is
mhm.
more consumption of alkaline water.
Yeah, because there are going to be events whereby you're going to be consuming, especially where your diet is concerned, you're going to be consuming foods that could be extremely acidic. Um,
Mm,
all right, so you need alkaline water. Not you don't want to be dependent on your buffer zones. You want to add little alkaline water to that schedule. So simple things like, for example, like when you awake in the morning, the first thing you do besides having your morning prayers and stuff like this, if you have a warm glass of water with some lemon juice squeezed into it, just to
mm,
start the process whereby you flush all the built up of mucus and the stuff that your body tries to get rid of during the course of rebuilding in the night and cleaning and
mm,
repairing. So you help
mm,
by so simply doing, you help the process of detoxification
mm,
first thing in the morning. It's not a
mm,
complete detoxification, but what you're doing, you're aiding in the process of removing waste that may have
mm,
accumulated as a result of the day that passed. And you want to
mm.
basically give yourself a fighting chance for the start of the next day.
Yeah, I really like that tip that you give. You know, you can put a little lemon into the water in the morning and use that as a means of detoxing. But I also believe it provides energy and in so many different ways. Um, so that is really solid information. What Roland, let us take, for example, that the average person is not aware of the type of water that they are consuming and the impact that the wrong water consumption can have on the body.
Hmm.
How do you see this affecting the individual overall health? Is it an energy stealer? Is it, undermine how people perform in the organization and not necessarily knowledgeable enough to perhaps associate that tiredness to water consumption? How much can your research along this line can you say? And from there, I want you to also talk, Roland, about your product line, because what I'm aware of is that you have built a business, not only where you are educating people about these type of things, but you are providing certain products, organic foods, for people. So can you take a shot at those two things for me?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, let me get into that quickly. For example, like we do cold pressed juices, but we use strictly some of the products that we use are would be organic vegetables.
Mm,
If they're not organic, we use a solution of baking soda or lime juice to soak those products in to get rid of pesticides or whatever things that you can't see with the naked eye. Um, then we juice those things. We cold press the juices because you don't want to destroy the integrity or the quality of these vegetables. All right.
mm,
So because what we find is that people, when we do, especially when I do the analysis, we see something called, we refer to it in medicine as blood sludge, or erythrocyte aggregation, where the red blood cells are all clumping together. And that is a contributing factor of the acidity, the amount of acid that is in our food, that is in our environment, that we put on our skin, the toxins that we inhale. So there's a lot of things here that is basically making you unhealthy, making you acidic. I don't know if you can remember, like in the 70s and 80s, I had something called acid music, where people would be banging their
oh,
head and shaking their head like they want to fall off.
yeah, man.
Right. So
Yeah,
the
man.
more, yeah,
I could recall also when I first met my wife, she took me to one of those rock party.
right, yeah. A lot of us had those experience. Good ones
uh,
at the time. Good ones at the time, though. So uh, let me give you another example of the kind of foods that we try to focus on in terms. Let's say somebody has a particular health condition. Arthritis, for example, arthritis is a degenerative bone health problem whereby the joints become inflamed, and acid is one of the contributing factors to that. Okay, so we focus on diet that is going to reverse the acidity that is concentrated around that particular area, wherever the arthritis is located. So basically, these things, these conditions seek out the most vulnerable of areas to attack and to destroy. All right. So going on an alkaline diet where most of your food is like 80 to 90% alkaline and 10% acidic, you are going to slowly reverse that condition. This is something you have to practice. This is a lifestyle you have to change. This is a paradigm shift. You
Mm-hmm.
need to work at at this particular juncture of your life. Like if you're going to work, you have to earn money in order to pay your bills and keep yourself healthy. But this is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Change your diet, especially things that you can control, especially where your foods are concerned. And this is where we go back to blood type, but we're going to get into all that later. So when you're faced with, I said earlier, arthritis, for example, try to make your foods as alkaline as possible, because the more alkalinity you have servicing those areas that are weak, it's greater the chances of recovery. You're getting rid of inflammation. And there are certain foods that are brilliant for removing inflammation from the body. All right. We don't want to use medication for certain things, because medication can make the situation even more acidic. All right. So we want to include proper diet, good quality water, even exercise is also
And
recommended, because
rest.
what exercise does is to
Mm-hmm.
force oxygen, which is an alkalizing agent by itself, into those damaged areas, because those areas become before them as dead areas. So there's very little oxygenation going on. Exercises, particular exercises, will force oxygen in those areas to remove the acidity that has accumulated over the years or as a result of the injuries. So like sports injuries, for example, there's a lot of acid in those areas, a lot of activities in terms of inflammation that is causing the pain and contributing to the acidic condition that exists. All right. So I don't know if that answers some of your the questions that you're asking about just now.
Yeah, definitely. And what I'm seeing, Roland, there's so much that we have to talk about on these issues, because I do believe that the average person in the world, they are consumers of products and services. They are not the expert that can predetermine what are the best foods. Like, for example, you talk about sugar early on, and what the research is showing is that sugar consumption must be something that is controlled and limited. But the average person, they go by the taste buds. If it tastes
Yeah.
nice, I want it, and that may have a lot of sugar. So sugar in of itself has its own challenges.
Yes.
What I would love to see happen, Roland, and I know we are working on that, is where we are building in our mentorship support uh, network, mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, and support, is that we're going to build out what we call a health mentorship community that is going to be filtering this type of information out to members in our community, so they become more educated consumers of products and foods that they're eating, so they can live better quality of life, and they can prolong their life expectancy, because it can be done with the right information. All right. And I know that we have maybe started to scratch the surface in the things that we talk
Oh
about
yeah.
earlier. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Ve- Very
um,
true. We just basically brushing the surface. We haven't even penetrated the first layer.
yeah.
And
And
this
I like that we're talking about it, because, from a business standpoint, when we hire employees, right, we tend to look at the academics. And we think that the academics is the only predeterminants of people's ability to perform. You may have the academics, you may have the knowledge, but if the foods that you're eating, it's affecting how you process information, it's affecting your energy level, it's affecting your whole circadian rhythm. Uh,
Yeah.
you have an underperforming employee, and
Yeah.
underperforming employee is a loss of productive
Loss
time,
of revenue. Correct.
and it's a loss of revenue.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
go ahead.
yeah, what I wanted to highlight back when I started earlier, I said the consumption of sugar has gone through the roof. When we start in the early 19th century, the average person was using about 10 pounds of sugar per year. That's 365 days, 10 pounds of sugar spread over that period. It may be as a result of finances. People weren't that rich. Um,
Well,
all right, but
your pets behind you are competing for airtime, buddy.
oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so right, no, so our modern living has we are using in excess of 150 pounds of sugar. So there's greater acidity in our diet. And sugar is one of the main contributing factors of that. It is basically rotting your body from the inside.
Mm,
All right. And
yeah.
any sugar, whether it's brown sugar, white sugar, it's toxic to the body. That means it's poison. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. 8 times more addictive. All right. The cane juice that you can harvest, squeeze from your sugar cane that you may have in your yard is far more better to drink as against taking a spoonful of sugar in a cup of water. All right. So the acidity level of these things, and I like to use as part of the acid alkaline balance is a simple
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola, 20-ounce Coca-Cola. If you take a 20-ounce Coca-Cola and drink on a regular basis, you would have to take 30 glasses of the same size, which is same 20-ounce size of the highest alkaline water to neutralize just one 20-ounce Coca-Cola. So
Interesting.
you've seen the damage that you're doing to your body, to your skeletal system. And there's one
Mm-hmm.
particular young lady that came to us years ago, and I met her back a couple of years back, and she was doing excellent.
Mm-hmm.
If she sit down talking to you and she gets up, you would think that this person that is in front of you is an old person. You can hear the grinding and the groans that accompanies her that she makes when she gets up.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because she was addicted to Coca-Cola and chocolates. We remove all of that from her diet, change the whole change the whole dynamics of her eating. She went total plant-based for about 3 months. And I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you this transformation was out of this world. Her skin,
Interesting.
yeah, she had what we call multiple abscesses on her skin when she came to us. And she shows all
Mm-hmm.
the cuts where they drain the abscesses. And all they were
Mm-hmm.
doing was basically tapping the surface. You have an abscess, they drain it, they put antibiotics in it, they cover it up with a bandage. Next 2, 3 days, a new abscess formed somewhere else. They weren't treating the underlying problem. And the underlying
Mm-hmm.
problem was sugar. And sugar
Mm-hmm.
gives you acidity. So,
Interesting. And you see, there's so much of education and re-education that has to be done. And I do believe as humanitarians, that care not only about the money gain, but the human gain. Um, it's important that as time progresses that we, continue to provide this kind of information to people in a way that can truly transform
yeah.
their lives. I'm noticing that we have over 1,300 persons who are here. I want to thank those persons for being here today. But Roland, any last words you want to share? I want to bring in Minister Joel Warner to talk to us about technology. But any last thoughts you want to share before I open up the mic to Joel?
Uh, yeah, to be quite honest with you,
I
I
know you have
sometimes
a
go
lot to share.
yeah, I sometimes go into mission overload, and
I know, I
yes,
know.
yeah, because
It,
this
it
thing,
happens all the time when we're together, my brother. I know this.
yeah, because you can literally see people, even in your own family circles, you can see people basically destroying themselves, and how can you help? Because sometimes resources are limited, money
Mhm,
wise or whatever. how can you help? And there are simple things that you can do. I sure most person can afford to buy a lemon just to start with alkalizing your water.
Mm,
Simple things like that. So if you can find the smaller things, you're not going for the big stuff. You're going for the smaller things that can start improving your life gradually. That
mhm,
would be a winner for all of us. Because the healthier we become as a nation, and we're not a big nation, we're a small nation, the greater the resources, the greater the living, the greater of the expectation, the dreams and aspirations of our people will be materialized. And that, for me, is the burning desire to see how that happens in our country. Because there's a lot of acidity in our brothers and sisters today. You can see it happening all the time.
yeah. Yep. There's so much for us to unpack here, but I want to encourage our viewing public from around the world to continue to be tuned in to Wealth Summit 2026, because here is where we will do some deep dive into important issues relating to business, relating to technology, relating to your health, relating to wealth. All right, we'll do some deep dive on air, but I also want to encourage you to reach out to us, send us a DM, and we want to bring you into our community. All right, so while we are providing information to you as a collective, we also want to provide that support to you individually, because you may have individual need. You may have a business, you may need access to capital. We're able to help you to get access to capital across all 50 states in the United States of America. In the Caribbean, we are now on the ground to identify creative ways in which we can help businesses to also access capital, either through joint venture partnership. And at the right time, we definitely has to escalate conversation up the higher chain. We need to see the credit bureaus working together. In the U.S., we have Equifax, Experience, and TransUnion, who are working together to ensure that they're working with financial institutions, they're working with all critical stakeholders to create financial instruments for businesses. And we'll talk more about all of that. In our community, whatever we can do to help, we will help. So we have 1,375 persons who are here at the moment. I want to say a big shout out to you and thanks for being here. And I certainly trust that you're enjoying this particular platform. I know that we have more people who are viewing across the other platforms that we are currently broadcasting on. And thanks to all of you. I want to now acknowledge Minister Joel Warner. Joel Warner has spent many years in business, and he is multi-talented. And but I know that he has a tremendous passion for technology and how people are using technology to give themselves and to give their businesses that competitive advantage. So I want to welcome you, Joel. And what's on your mind in relation to technology and business? Um, let's talk a bit about that today. All to you, Joel.
Yes, Gary, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, we have so much to talk about when it comes to technology. Uh, when we think of, and a lot of times I'll mention innovation because it's basically innovation talks about how we create value, right? Innovation is simply value creation. It's right there. It's because a lot of times we have businesses, but want to sustain our customers, we want to sustain our clientele, and we want to know that we're providing value because the ultimate goal that we would have heard is that the business exists to make a profit. But more than just make a profit, it must exist to add value. You see, value, profit comes from value. And value is derived from your ability to effectively solve a problem. So when we speak of innovation, we go right back to problem solving and right back to being able to first understand what your customers or what this core audience is experiencing, and then creating a solution or packaging a solution innovatively. That is via the use of technology or systems. And a lot of times we mention systems too, and persons like that word. But what does that word mean? There was one that I think one period of time I was taught systems is it was meant to save yourself stress, time, and money, right? And when or time, energy, and money. But when you really look at it, it's the automation or the design of a task or a series of tasks or an entire process to the point where you can release yourself or relieve yourself of time, energy, and maybe even save some dollars. But what you found is that a lot of times when persons sought to create systems, in the past, they would have filled those systems or filled those processes with more complexities. Today, you have the ability to design systems with innovation or through innovation, for your business to come to that point of, seeing a faster ROI or having a more efficient go-to-market strategy because you're plugged in to what is happening around trends and all of these things, because technology now presents this opportunity to you. So it's helping a lot of people scale in this time because they're seeing not only the advancement of everything around them, but they're able to create effective business structures around all of these advancements. So the secret sauce is to be able to plug yourself in to an ever-changing economy with the right mindset on innovation. So you have to be innovation first company. All right. It gives you the ability to scale. It helps you to launch ideas quickly. In the past, without innovation, you've had a problem. And that problem, Gary, was the ability to effectively ideate a process, right? Or to bring a process into fruition, bring something new into fruition, because it was expensive. And the cost to launch something as a prototype on something without much, research or without up to the minute or, forthcoming information on what that could be was pretty much expensive. But now you have the ability to split test. Now you have the ability to launch prototypes in record time. Now you have the ability to test your market before you actually, take a product out there. You have the ability to do so much because of innovation, which has saved us a lot of time, a lot of energy, and definitely finance. So speed has become something significant. So when we think of innovation, we think of scaling, we think of speed, and we think of the ability to maximize on ROI while decreasing the amount of spend. So higher capital efficiency, right? And you've spoken a lot earlier about, capital and things like that. And when you come to the point of presenting now to investors and you have an innovation first company, you'll find that investors really love that kind of structure. All right. They love that kind of structure because it speaks to the age. It speaks to what is happening now. It speaks to the relevance of what is happening now. and may even speak to the relevance of your business. All right. How effective is your business solving real world problems? What exists right now? Are you a pioneer in that particular area? Uh, because of the level of innovation that is now plugged into, many things in the world and the access, you'll find that, creators or entrepreneurs would have to always be on the ball, because they can't say, now, okay, I've launched this thing, it's only me, I can sit down forever, there is no competition. Before you blink, there might be 4 or 5, 10 persons seeking to do what you're doing. So you always have to be on the ball. So innovation helps you, keep relevant. Innovation helps you be a step ahead of the game. Innovation helps you to lock in on something powerful that you would have done. But not only that, to continue the process of experimentation. And experimentation is a big thing. I mentioned earlier that the ability to ideate and to test new things in the past was pretty expensive. But right now, because of innovation, we're pretty much in a beautiful period where you can experiment faster. All right. You can experiment faster. And because of that, you can test new systems, test new models. What doesn't work, you can put that aside, and you can immediately start generating new things, new ideas, new concepts. If you have parameters that you want to plug into your business systems, now you can test those parameters faster and actually see results. And because of that, we're living in such a beautiful time that you have to take it seriously. All right. Begin to ask yourself, what can cause me to get to that point of innovation faster? If I'm dealing with an organization that has access to, let's say, a large data set, right, or it collects a lot of data, then you gotta definitely determine if you're gonna need a data analyst, if you're gonna plug into a data framework, and be able to make use of that data. Data is real gold, all right? And be able to now use this, because data is the backbone of this age, right? Data is the fuel or the oil for this age. And your ability to make use of that data, and to determine the value of that data to you can be the difference between being a $10 million or being $100 million company. All right. So it becomes precious what you can do with that through innovation. So I think a lot more needs to be done, especially locally, Gary, so that Guyana can be open to what it means to innovate. While we've been awesome at being entrepreneurially minded, like the typical Guyanese is a hustler. All right. And we know that the typical Guyanese is a hustler. They try to do something, and it's great for our economy because collectively it shows that we're a people that we wouldn't just sit down. All right. And you would see that there's almost no mercy for those who would just sit down and do nothing. Everybody is hustling, everybody is doing something. And we've given much relevance to that term, being a hustler, right? Not in any negative way, but more so the entrepreneurial spirit of the people. But what we need are more systems, systems that will help persons to start a process and develop on that process, develop that process into something. It's good to be going after, the market, going after the business, launching new things and so on. But sooner or later, if you're going to do this by yourself or a manual process, Gary, you know that you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be burnt out. And while you're wiping your perspiration or sweat from your face, somebody else is moving past you in rapid speed.
So Joe, you're right. Joel, you're so right. What I've seen is that technology is a disruptor. And
Mhm.
if you're not keeping abreast of relevant technological development and adopting relevant technology to your organization, you
Yeah.
are not only losing time, you are losing
Hmm.
major, major cost benefits. And you're
Yeah.
undermining that business potential to even increase cash flow. So there's so much for us to
Hmm.
get into as we look at technology and the change that technology is bringing. Um, but Joel, from your standpoint,
Yeah.
do you think that people are fearful of the changes that is taking place in technology today? And is there something is there a genuine reason for them to be fearful of technology?
Yeah, I would say while it's exciting for a lot of people because they're a part of the greatest moment that we could have ever been in history, I think
Hmm.
fear comes for what you don't quite understand. And before you even can figure it out, something else comes to replace it that seems greater. And the speed of adaptation and knowledge, right? And connecting to knowledge, I think is crucial because that determines your level of acceptance of this. And with acceptance, of course, will come understanding, and all you're getting, get understanding. But always remember, wisdom is the principal thing. So wisdom is the application of knowledge. And when you don't have knowledge, what will you apply? And in the absence of making an informed decision, persons are going to be fearful because they don't want to make any kind of decision when it comes to technology. They've seen how powerful technology can be. They've realized that some people had their entire financial savings or life savings wiped out. They've realized that some persons had their identity stolen and all of these different things. And
Yeah.
what
One
you
of the
can,
things that I've seen, one of the
yeah.
things that I've seen, Joel, is that Hollywood, I think it
Mhm.
was uh, just after the pandemic, they had a lot to say about it. The Hollywood writers and I think the actors came out in support because what was established at that time while the world was in a shutdown, coming out of that shutdown, AI started to raise its visibility. And what AI said to the copywriters is that, hey, we don't need you because with the proper training of AI was able to write the script. And once AI is now able to write the script for the movies and the sitcoms, there's no need now for the writer. So they had a big protest because you're right when you said that with AI, it was disrupting people's main source of income. And once people's main course of income is being threatened, they will, uh, retaliate to that challenge. It seems as though we have just lost Joel, but I just want to go into that subject. Um, I do believe that AI is a disruptor. I didn't only see that with the Hollywood writers, how it affected them and how they pushed back. They pushed back. I think they got their unions to advocate on their behalf. And fortunately, uh, a compromise was made between the leaders at Hollywood and the writers. So many, if not all of them, they were able to retain their position as writers. With technology today, also, the we're seeing many rising stars, even in today's designing industry. they're a challenge. All right. Uh, I have seen that many young folks who are excited about graphic designs and innovation along these lines, they have spent many years and long hours mastering their craft, only now to see modern technology is coming up to replace that. Now, the question is if there's something to be fearful of. What I want to table as an answer to my own question is that persons have to learn these new technologies because learning them is what's going to help you to be more relevant to industries, because the software still has to be guided. And the more you understand about the softwares and how to manage those software to get a desired end results, is where you can still shine, is where you can still have relevance. And it can even provide an opening for you to uh, go faster and also perhaps go independent and to also increase your disposable income. So I think to answer that question, it's how much you know about what you're doing. And the key is to put yourself in a position of strength to be able to leverage that information in the way that will serve your best interest. Well, folks, it seems as though we have lost Joel, who is one of our technology specialists, and we are now uh, 2 minutes away from the top of the 2 hours that we have scheduled for Wealth Summit 2026. And if Roland is here, perhaps you can give any closing remarks that you want to share. And but if not, we will do this again next week, Saturday, same time, same place. Roland, I see your mic is open. I will give you a chance to give any closing remarks you want to make in relation to the health issues you spoke about early on. So there's anything else you want to share, and this is your time. I would love for you to perhaps talk some more about the press juices that you have, and then I'm going to come back to Joel. It seems as though we just got back, Joel. So all to you.
Right. Thanks for that again, Gary, Brother Joel. Yeah, just to further highlight what I spoke about earlier. Um, Alkalize to energize. All right. Give your
Us.
cells the necessary fluid or fuel to be what they were designed to be. All right. Change the
I love that.
environment and you reverse sickness. All right. So that's basically my mantra that I operate from.
All right, thanks for that share, Roland. Joel, if you're hearing me, the mic is now yours. You can perhaps complete your trend of thoughts, and then you can give us your wrapping up remarks. But I trust that you're hearing me. All right, I noticed that you're getting some connection error. All
Yes, can
right,
you hear me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
All right, so the video may come up subsequently. Yes, so as we are moving through, I think I got cut off just when you were speaking about the US and innovation.
Yes, so you can perhaps complete your trend of thoughts there. I was saying that there's a lot of
Yes.
disruptors and that technology can bring, but my concluding remarks is that persons need to keep abreast of the changes that is taking place and follow some of those trends and ensure that you can, position yourself to be ahead of it. And that's what this group here is about because uh, you, as one of our experts, I know you will share information on the trends in technology. And I know as time progresses, you will be given information that will help people to not only see those trends, but adopt those trends and also put themselves in that position of strength to be ahead of the curve. Um, well, because technology, I don't want us to be fearful of it. I want us to be conscious of it and to be able to up level the way that we're thinking, to adopt technology that is relevant so we can leverage that to the advantage of the growth of our business, to achieve more competitive advantage. But I want you to complete your trended thoughts, Joel, and perhaps you can then give us your closing remarks.
All right, wonderful. Yes, so the idea about what is happening within technology, you have the application of technology, and as I would have taught to some students in the past, you have the implications of technology, and you can't speak about one without considering the other. But
Mm.
what is happening now is that as you see what is taking place around you, don't ignore it. Take the time to find out what is happening. Take the time to be informed about what is happening. I know we're going to have a number of courses, especially courses in blockchain and crypto, courses in business innovation, courses in artificial intelligence, and we're going to bring a lot of these, insights and information. We're going to have a community around this, right? So that persons can have the opportunity to really know what is happening. That if they're, if they've been even living under a rock, they can be a part of those communities and really come up to speed with what is happening, all right? What is happening in the technological world and better prepare for these things. I would always tell persons, let technology be your friend and think about the process or the systems that you're doing right now or that you're using right now and how you can scale them with technology. I know in the past, when I was, probably at the university or so, uh, my mother and father would have been like, "You all are always on these phones." When you had the BlackBerry and these other phones came out, and then they were like, "You were always on these phones, but check them today. Check them today. You'll see my dad is doing trading. You'll see my mom is talking to all her siblings, uh, abroad, and being able to have video calls and all of these things, log into Zoom, host Zoom for, fellowship sessions and all of these different things. And you'll be like, wait, these big people, what are they doing with these phones?" The same guys who once said, "What are you guys doing with all this phone? Your head is always in this phone," and so on. Now you're like, caught you. And I think both of them probably have two phones each, right? For home and work and things like that. So you would have to some time come to the point of understanding that you can't fight this, but what you need to do is understand it. Take time to understand it. All right. What we do at our church fellowship is to even bring the church into the understanding of what is happening in the age, right? And how to better use. Because if you don't know about technology, guess what? Your children know about technology, and you want to be able to inform yourself because you want to be able to safeguard their use or their exposure, and be able to help them to not just use common sense for the media, but be able to you know be better informed about what they do and how they do it, the kind of information that you give out. Giving out your data is a big thing. Don't just answer everybody that asks you a question online. Be careful. Just as we would have told our children, don't speak to strangers offline, you'll definitely gotta instruct them about the online media, right? You definitely gotta instruct them about what happens online. You gotta be careful with where you're spending your time, where you're spending your money, your all of these different things. So we're going to share more on this, Gary, to help persons to come up to that point of not just coming to speed, but they'll need to join the community. I mean, there's so much to learn there.
Yeah, there's so much.
You're going to win. And nothing beats knowing how to win with technology in business. Game changer. Yes, buddy.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Joel, and I definitely want to encourage our viewers from around the world. Do send us a DM. Do reach out to join our community. And we have experts that are leading all of those communities. And the responsibility of all of those expert leaders is to give you that support that you need. So Joel, he would, look over technology. And of course, he's hinting on Bitcoins and cryptocurrency. Of course, you do a lot of education to ensure that you understand risk and how to mitigate risk and how to safely manage your portfolio. I'm looking over, one of the portfolios that I'm looking over is access to capital. So in the US, I'm just going to share some of our partners. We have Credit Suite, who is one of the partners that we are collaborating with, and they are the largest credit card providers in the US working with businesses. Now, if you go to the description of this video right now, you will see a link. All right. You would see my partnership link with that institution. You can just tap on it and you can use that link and apply for funding. Now, if you need help, you can also contact me directly and I'll be happy to give you that representation. We are also representing MB Capital. Also, if you go to description, you will see that link, MB Capital, and when you click on it, you would see one of our business in the US, 10X Branding and Marketing LLC, collaborating with MB Capital. And, with MB Capital, we're able to get you access to capital within a very short possible time, within a couple of weeks. All right. So we're not here just for the talk. We're here to give you the much needed support that you need to grow and scale in business. All right. We will talk about financial instruments that you can get access to where you don't have to pay APR. APR meaning annual percentage rate. You don't have to pay that for 6 months to about 21 months. Could you imagine that? That you're getting access to, let us say between 20 to 250,000 US dollars, and you don't have to pay back interest on that sum until a period would have passed. Those are the type of capital that we want to help you to get. Why? Because we know that as a rising star in business, you need some breathing space to leverage capital, to turn over capital, to achieve the vision of your business. So each of the communities within this platform, we apply the concept that we call relationship economics. And our ultimate game here is to make you feel at home when you're in our community. All right. You're in business because you want that support. You want to grow. You want to scale. And we understand that. And that's why we have built out this platform and to help you. So remember to like, subscribe, and share. And feel free to ask any questions. You can send a question in the chat. We will be looking at our programs and we will respond to your questions or your concern, or you can send a personal DM. We will be happy to respond to you. So with that being said, we are now going to wrap up. And I want to come right back to Joel to just share his last word before we pull the curtain down on today's program. Joel?
Yes, guys, my encouragement is to please get in touch with us. There's so much to share that truly you can't do it all on social here. All right. One thing that we're going to be doing is for persons who are joining our communities, you're going to be exposed to a number of things. All right. You're also going to be exposed to some systems, some tools, especially business tools if you're business owners, or if you have the idea or an idea and you want to get beyond that into an established business, whether it's in the Caribbean or in the US, you definitely need to make contact with us. All right. Some of these tools that we're building or that we have built, I've told Gary that we're going to be giving some beta access to some of these tools, definitely within our communities. So you're going to be our first, first leap testers. All right. As we go through, and you're going to make history for a number of these tools that we have. All right. So it's going to be powerful. Do not pass up the opportunity to join our community. All right. Yep. So be encouraged and see you in the community.
All right. All right. Thanks for that share, Joel. So there you had it, the second broadcast of Wealth Summit 2026. We will do this again next week, Saturday, same time, 6 p.m. So I want to again thank, I know, looking at the different platform that we're on, we have had over 4,000 persons across those different platforms who are here, who view the program. So I want to thank each and every one of you for spending the time here with us today. And we look forward to seeing you with us next week. Joel, Roland, I want to thank you guys for coming and sitting and sharing with the public in terms of, the various portfolios that you're holding and giving them information. So I do trust that the information that you have shared has been useful to everyone. I know it has been useful. And I just want to thank you guys for continuing to be the good humanitarians, and there you are. And looking forward to doing this again next week, Saturday. Roland,
Thank you very much.
Well, all the best. Welcome, my friends.
Thank you very
All right,
much,
guys.
brother.
Welcome.